On our vacation, she whispered, "This is the basic package. My ex would have gotten the platinum." I smiled and said, "Let me fix that." I then called the front desk, canceled our basic room, and used the refund to buy a one-way, first-class ticket home for myself. Her tearful calls from the hotel lobby were my new favorite playlist. Alright, I'm gonna preface this by saying, I'm not one for drama. Most of my friends would describe me as chill, maybe even too laid back. My mother says I'm conflict avoidant to a fault. But there comes a point where even the chillest person needs to draw a line, and apparently mine is being compared to an ex while standing in a resort lobby in Maui. I, 37M, met Vanessa about a year ago at a friend's housewarming party. She was stunning, tall, athletic, with this infectious laugh that made everyone want to be in on the joke. We hit it off immediately, talking for hours about everything from obscure 80s movies to our shared love of kayaking. Things moved pretty quickly after that. Within 3 months, we were practically living together at my place. I own a small but decent house just outside the city. And by 6 months, we were talking about future plans. I'm not usually one to rush into things, but when you know, you know. Or so I thought. The thing about Vanessa is that she comes from money. Like, serious money. Her father owns a chain of car dealerships across 3 states, and she grew up with the kind of privilege I can't even fathom. Meanwhile, I'm a civil engineer who makes a good living, but certainly not multiple vacation homes money. This disparity never seemed to be an issue. If anything, she would joke about how refreshing it was to date someone who wasn't trying to access her trust fund. For our 1-year anniversary, I wanted to do something special. I'd been saving for months to take us to Hawaii. Not an easy feat on my salary, but I managed to put together enough for a decent 7-day stay in Maui. Not 5-star luxury, but a perfectly nice beachfront resort with good reviews. I was proud of this trip. It represented months of careful budgeting and planning. One thing I'd done right was purchase comprehensive travel insurance. My buddy works in the industry and always insists it's worth the extra cost. "You never know what might happen," he'd said. If only he knew how prophetic those words would be. When I told Vanessa about the trip, she seemed genuinely excited. She'd been to Hawaii many times before, but said she was thrilled to experience it through fresh eyes with me. She even offered to contribute, but I declined. This was my gift to her, and I wanted to cover it. We arrived in Maui last Monday. The flight was long but uneventful, and we were both buzzing with excitement as we took the shuttle to the resort. The place was exactly as advertised. Clean, well-maintained, with a beautiful view of the ocean. Not the Ritz-Carlton, but hardly a Motel 6 either. The check-in process was smooth, with the friendly desk clerk explaining the amenities included in our package: access to the main pool and beach, complimentary breakfast, and a welcome cocktail at the bar. She mentioned there were other packages available with additional perks like spa credits and exclusive access to the adults-only infinity pool, but ours was the standard option. That's when I felt Vanessa stiffen beside me. As we walked away from the desk toward the elevators, she leaned close and whispered, "This is the basic package. Jason would have gotten the platinum." Jason, her ex. The investment banker she dated for 2 years before me. The guy who apparently still occupied prime real estate in her head. I froze mid-step, my luggage handle suddenly very interesting as I processed what she'd just said. "Excuse me?" She must have realized how it sounded because she quickly backpedaled. "Oh, I didn't mean anything by it, just making an observation. This is great, really." But the damage was done. In that moment, something inside me just clicked. Or maybe unclicked. Like a switch being flipped, turning off whatever rose-colored filter I'd been seeing our relationship through. Because this wasn't the first comment of its kind. There was the time she mentioned how Jason would have known to make reservations at that trendy restaurant weeks in advance. The offhand remark about Jason's BMW being smoother than my Honda. The way she'd sometimes look at my modest house and say she found it refreshingly cozy compared to the luxury condo she shared with, you guessed it, Jason. I'd let these comments slide, telling myself they were innocent observations rather than comparisons. But standing there in that resort lobby, exhausted from travel and suddenly feeling like my carefully planned gift wasn't good enough, I couldn't ignore it anymore. "Let me fix that," I said with a calmness that surprised even me. What? No, seriously, this is fine. Give me a minute. I walked back to the front desk, leaving Vanessa with our luggage. The same friendly clerk looked up at me with a smile. I'd like to make some changes to our reservation, I said. Of course, sir. What can I help you with? I'd like to cancel my stay and request a refund. Her smile faltered. Is there a problem with the room? No, the room is exactly as advertised. I just won't be needing it anymore. She looked confused but began typing on her computer. Sir, I should mention our cancellation policy does include some penalties. I have travel insurance that covers cancellations, I explained, pulling up the policy on my phone. I understand there might be some paperwork, but I'd like to start the process. She looked relieved at this information and continued typing. It should take 2 to 3 business days for the refund to process through your insurance, but I can cancel the reservation now. That's perfect, thank you. While she processed the cancellation, I pulled out my phone and opened the airline app. I'd already checked flight availability earlier that day, old habit from my backpacking days, always knowing your exit options. There was a first-class seat available on a flight to Seattle, departing at 9 p.m., about 5 hours from now. The cost was more than the refund I'd eventually receive, but I had enough cushion on my credit card. This was worth it. I booked the ticket, then turned back to the clerk who was now printing out my cancellation confirmation. Could you recommend a good place to get a drink nearby, somewhere not in the resort? And is there any chance the Bell staff could store my luggage for a few hours until I need to head to the airport? She looked puzzled, but professional. Of course, sir. The Bell desk can hold your luggage, and I'd recommend the Tiki Hut Bar, about a half-mile down the beach. Very nice sunset views. I thanked her, arranged for my luggage to be held, and walked back to Vanessa, who was now looking both confused and irritated. What's going on? Did you upgrade us? Not exactly. I handed her the cancellation confirmation. I've canceled our stay. Her face went through about 5 emotions in 3 seconds. You? What? Why would you do that? Because I'm going home. Tonight. I've already booked my flight. This is a joke, right? Because of what I said. Come on, I didn't mean anything by it. I took a deep breath. It's not just what you said. It's what you've been saying for months. I'm tired of being compared to Jason. I'm tired of feeling like I'm some downgrade you're settling for, so I'm removing myself from the equation. You can't be serious. You're going to ruin our entire vacation over one comment. It wasn't one comment, Vanessa. It was the last comment. I reached into my wallet and took out $300 in cash that I'd brought for emergencies. Here, this should help until you figure things out. Stay, enjoy Hawaii, but I won't be joining you. She stared at the money like it might bite her. Keep your money. I can pay for my own room. I know you can. That's not the point. Then what is the point? To punish me? To make some grand gesture? The point is self-respect. Something I've apparently been lacking lately. I didn't wait for her response. I simply asked the Bell staff to hold my luggage, confirmed they had my details, and headed for the exit, stopping only to ask for directions to the Tiki Hut Bar the desk clerk had recommended. The place was exactly what I needed, laid back with an open-air deck overlooking the ocean and strong drinks served in ridiculous mugs. I found a corner table, ordered something with an embarrassing name and too many umbrellas, and finally let myself process what had just happened. My phone started buzzing about 30 minutes later. Vanessa, of course. I declined the call, then another and another. Then texts started coming in. This is childish. You're seriously leaving me in Hawaii? Please come back to the hotel so we can talk about this. The resort is completely booked, and the other hotels nearby are $500 plus per night. That last one gave me pause. I hadn't considered the possibility that the resort might be fully booked. But then my phone buzzed with another message. The manager is helping me find a room at another hotel. I can't believe you're doing this to me. And there it was. Even in this situation, I was the villain in her story. I was doing something to her, not the other way around. I ordered another drink and put my phone on silent. After a couple of hours at the bar, I took a cab to the airport, retrieved my luggage from the resort's bell desk on the way, checked in for my flight, and settled into the first-class lounge. I'd never flown first class before. The closest I'd come was economy plus on a work trip to Denver. But sometimes you need to treat yourself, especially when your anniversary vacation implodes spectacularly. As boarding time approached, I finally checked my phone again. 17 missed calls and a barrage of text messages that evolved from angry to pleading to borderline threatening. The last one read, "I've booked a room at the Hyatt. Much nicer than your choice anyway. Call me when you stop being ridiculous." I didn't respond. Instead, I turned off my phone completely as I boarded the plane. The flight attendant welcomed me by name and offered me champagne. I accepted, settling into a seat wider than some love seats I've owned, and felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. Somewhere over the Pacific it hit me that I was actually relieved. Not just about escaping the immediate situation, but about the relationship ending. It was like I'd been carrying a weight I hadn't even recognized until it was gone. I landed in Seattle at some ungodly hour of the morning, took a rideshare home, and slept for nearly 12 hours. When I woke up, I had even more missed calls and messages, including some from mutual friends who'd apparently gotten Vanessa's version of events. "Dude, you left her in Hawaii?" texted my friend Mark. "Vanessa said you had some kind of breakdown and abandoned her at the hotel," wrote Sarah. I didn't bother responding to any of them immediately. Instead, I made coffee, sat on my back deck, and enjoyed the simple pleasure of being home. I'd sort out the social fallout later. That evening, I finally sent Vanessa a message. "I'm home safe. I think we both know this relationship isn't working. I'll pack up your things from my place. Let me know when you're back and want to collect them." Her response came quickly. "So that's it? One comment and you throw away everything we had?" I started typing a longer explanation, but stopped myself. What was the point? She either understood why her behavior was hurtful, or she didn't. No amount of explanation from me would change that. Instead, I simply wrote, "It wasn't just one comment. I wish you the best, Vanessa, but this is the right decision for me." Then I blocked her number. The next few days were strangely peaceful. I went back to work, explained to my boss that I'd had a relationship situation that cut my vacation short, and dove back into my projects. I packed up Vanessa's belongings, not that many, considering how long we'd been together, and put them in the spare room. I told our mutual friends a condensed version of what happened, making it clear I wasn't looking for them to take sides. Some of them understood. Others thought I overreacted. Mark, after hearing the full story, including all the previous Jason comparisons, actually said, "Damn, I'd have left her at the airport, not the hotel. You're a gentleman." Vanessa returned to Seattle 5 days later. She sent messages through friends asking to talk, but I declined. Instead, I arranged for her to pick up her things. I asked Mark to be there when she came over, partly for security, partly as a witness. I didn't want any accusations about damaged or missing items, and I definitely didn't want to be alone with her. I took the day off work and made myself scarce during the scheduled pickup time. When I returned home that evening, Mark was waiting with a six-pack and a story. Apparently, Vanessa had tried to take more than just her things, including a framed photo of my grandfather that had nothing to do with her. Mark had stopped her, which resulted in what he described as a minor meltdown. She'd also brought her own friend as backup, clearly expecting some kind of confrontation. When none materialized, they left with just her actual belongings. It's been 3 weeks now, and I've had time to reflect on the whole situation. Was leaving her in Hawaii dramatic? Absolutely. Could I have handled it differently? Probably. Do I regret it? Not even slightly. Because here's the thing. Sometimes a relationship doesn't end with a dramatic fight or a terrible betrayal. Sometimes it ends with a casual comment that finally makes you see what you've been trying to ignore. For me, that comment came with a view of the Pacific and the taste of sunscreen still on my lips. I've since heard through the grapevine that Vanessa is telling people I couldn't handle a strong, successful woman and was intimidated by her past. She's even suggested I orchestrated the whole thing because I couldn't actually afford the vacation and was looking for an out. Classic Vanessa. Reality is whatever version makes her look best. But something interesting happened last weekend. I was at a brewery with some friends when a woman I didn't recognize approached our table. "You're Eric, right?" she asked. I nodded. confused. I'm Claire, she introduced herself. Jason's girlfriend. It took me a moment to place the name, Jason, Vanessa's ex. I'd never met him or his girlfriend before. I hope you don't mind me interrupting, she continued. A mutual friend pointed you out. Sarah? She's friends with both of us. That made sense. Sarah had always been the connector in our social circle, friends with everyone. I just wanted to say thank you for standing up to Vanessa. Jason struggled with her comparisons for years, even after they broke up. The constant calls, the accidental run-ins, the comments about their past. It was like living with a ghost. He finally set boundaries with her about 6 months ago, and things have been so much better since. She didn't stay long, just enough to tell me that hearing about what I'd done had been validating for both her and Jason. Apparently, they weren't the only ones who had experienced Vanessa's comparative tendencies. So, here I am, back to my normal life. I've got another vacation's worth of savings in the bank. The travel insurance came through, covering most of my costs except for the flight upgrade. A newfound appreciation for my own company, and the memory of how good it felt to finally stand up for myself. Oh, and I've developed a strange fondness for the sound of my phone's blocked caller notification. It plays this little melody that used to annoy me, but now just sounds like freedom. Next time I go to Hawaii, and there will be a next time, I'll book myself the platinum package, not because I need to prove anything to anyone, but because I've learned that investing in yourself is never a waste. And maybe, just maybe, I'll meet someone who appreciates both the destination and the company without mentally comparing it to what came before. Until then, I'm enjoying the peace of not being measured against someone else's ex. It's a surprisingly spacious feeling, like stretching out in a first-class seat when you've been cramped in coach your whole life. Edit, holy crap, this blew up. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, Vanessa did eventually find a hotel room. The resort manager helped her book something at the Hyatt down the road. She stayed for the full week, based on the beach photos she posted. Sarah showed me when explaining how Claire recognized me at the brewery. 2. No, she didn't have to sleep in the lobby or on the beach. Several people seem concerned about this. She's a resourceful woman with a platinum credit card. She was fine. 3. For those saying I'm the asshole for stranding her. She's an adult with financial resources who speaks the language and had a working phone. This wasn't abandonment, it was removing myself from a toxic situation. 4. Yes, I really did fly first class home. It cost more than the refund I eventually received for my travel insurance, but it was worth the splurge. I usually fly economy because I'm practical with money, but sometimes you need to treat yourself. 5. To the person who asked if this was a pattern with me, leaving partners in difficult situations, no, this was definitely a first, and hopefully a last. I'm not looking to make dramatic exits my personal brand. Update, 6 months later. Wasn't planning to update, but so many people have messaged asking how things turned out that I figured I'd share a few developments. First, life is good. Really good. The whole Hawaii incident forced me to reevaluate a lot of things, not just my relationship with Vanessa, but how I approach relationships in general. I've always been the easygoing type, the one who goes with the flow to keep the peace. Turns out, there's a fine line between being laid back and being a doormat, and I'd been doing a two-step dance on that line for years. Second, Vanessa didn't quite vanish from my life as cleanly as I'd hoped. About a month after my original post, she showed up at my house unannounced. It was a Sunday morning, and I was in my garage working on my motorcycle when she pulled into the driveway. I wasn't entirely surprised. Mark had warned me she'd been asking mutual friends about my weekend routines. We need to talk, she announced, as if arriving without warning after weeks of silence was a perfectly normal thing to do. I set down my wrench and stepped outside. I don't think we do. You embarrassed me. You humiliated me. You left me stranded in a foreign place. Kauai is part of the United States, Vanessa, and you stayed at the Hyatt. That's not the point. Then what is the point? Because from where I'm standing, you seem less upset about our relationship ending and more upset that I was the one who ended it. That hit a nerve. She flinched, then quickly regained her composure. I came here to give you a chance to apologize, and maybe, if you're sincere enough, consider giving you another chance. I couldn't help it. I laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh, just genuine surprise. I don't want another chance. What we had wasn't healthy. I wasn't happy. Because of one comment about a vacation package? Because I was constantly being compared to your ex. Because nothing I did was ever quite good enough on its own terms. Because a relationship should lift you up, not slowly erode your self-worth. She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Then in a quieter voice, "So that's really it? You're not even willing to try?" I did try, for a year. It's your turn to try. Try to understand why what you were doing was hurtful. Try to do better in your next relationship. She left shortly after that, looking more confused than angry. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Third development, I did go back to Hawaii. In February, I took a solo trip to Kauai, stayed at a nice but not extravagant resort, hiked the Na Pali coast, took a helicopter tour, and had dinner with a cool couple I met on a catamaran sunset cruise. It was exactly the vacation I wanted, with exactly the company I chose, myself. Fourth, and perhaps most surprising, Jason reached out to me. After Claire's brewery introduction, he sent me a message through Sarah asking if I'd be open to meeting. We got together for a beer, which should have been awkward, but somehow wasn't. He's actually a decent guy who, like me, just got caught in Vanessa's comparison cycle. He's happier now, too. Finally, yes, I am dating someone new. Her name is Tara. We met through a kayaking club, and she's never once mentioned her ex. Not because she doesn't have one, she was married for 8 years, but because she understands that the past is the past, and each relationship deserves to be experienced on its own terms. The other day, we were planning a weekend trip to Portland, and I caught myself asking if she'd been there with her ex-husband. The question just popped out, an insecurity I didn't know I still carried. She looked at me for a moment, then simply said, "Does it matter? This is our trip." And that's when I knew for sure. I made the right choice in that resort lobby in Maui. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away, even if it means a first-class ticket and a few tearful voice messages. Life's too short to be someone's silver medal. Book the platinum package for yourself and enjoy the view. Update, 1 year later. Just a quick note to say that Tara and I got engaged last weekend. I proposed during a kayaking trip, fitting, since that's how we met. No luxury resorts, no elaborate schemes, just two people who genuinely enjoy each other's company, making a commitment in the middle of a lake at sunrise. And yes, we're planning a honeymoon in Hawaii. Platinum package, of course.